My wife, after a new acquaintance, began using drugs and cheating on me, and due to an overdose, she fell into a coma. My wife, typically an angel of a woman, had recently become close friends with a woman who I felt was a negative influence. This wasn't in a condescending way, but more like the lay down with dogs, get up with fleas type of situation. I refrained from commenting on her friend's childish behavior or radical ideas, because they didn't directly affect me until they did. A few months ago, my wife started pressuring me to take on more responsibilities around the house. We already split chores and childcare duties, with her handling more since she worked fewer hours. I usually cooked breakfast and dinner, handled the garbage, did the laundry, and deep cleaned the bathrooms weekly. I also helped our sons with their homework. She, on the other hand, managed lunch for herself and the boys. Despite our arrangement, she insisted that I wasn't doing enough and needed to contribute more. I tried to discuss her expectations with her, but it seemed like she wanted me to take over all chores and child-rearing duties. During our talks, she even mentioned divorce a few times, which felt manipulative. The situation escalated one night when we were out with friends. She began complaining about how I never helped out and treated her like a maid. Her words angered me deeply, but I kept my cool. The next day, I requested reduced hours at work due to stress and took over all household responsibilities. I cooked breakfast, prepared lunch for the boys, drove them to school, cleaned the house thoroughly, and did all the dishes. My wife was ecstatic and bragged to her friend about how she had finally trained me. She didn't lift a finger for a month. Then she started complaining about not going on dates anymore and not getting her nails done. I explained that we had to cut those expenses to balance our budget, but offered to have a movie night at home and paint her nails myself. She wasn't happy with that solution and suggested I pick up more shifts at work to cover her additional expenses, using the phrase, "be a man," which I found insulting. I then asked if she would consider getting a part-time job for those luxuries, and she reacted as if I'd suggested something outrageous. When I proposed returning to our previous chore division, she accused me of being manipulative and claimed I was financially abusing her. I stood my ground for a while but started questioning my approach, feeling that my methods might have been underhanded. Relevant comments. Comment: why are you still with her when she treats you like that? Response: I love her deeply. She's a wonderful mother, and before she met this friend, we were both very happy. Comment: how did she suddenly notice not getting her nails done or going on dates? Did you block the credit card for everything but groceries? Response: no, she has her own card. We have one bank account, and I usually set her nail and hair appointments because she hates making phone calls. She asked why I didn't take her out anymore. And while she could spend from the card, it would hurt our budget if we spent $300 plus on a night out. We were with friends, discussing more about my wife and our relationship. She had always wanted to be a stay-at-home mom before we got together. While her two boys aren't mine biologically, they are my sons. Being a single mother was incredibly taxing for her, especially because working in public was overwhelming. I had some experience as a single father myself, as I have a son, but I was looking to advance my career and was more than happy to take over the bills to lighten her load at home. Some people might say, "You're paying to raise another man's children," but I dislike this comment. Those are my kids, no one else's, and regardless of what happens with their mother, I hope they always know that. Our relationship has changed in many ways. In the early days of our marriage, she would give me shoulder and back massages every day after work and play my favorite music when I came home, even though she hates bluegrass. She would make my coffee while I got dressed and always picked up extra crunchy peanut butter from the store, even though I'm the only one who likes it. We had movie nights with the kids twice a week and a date night to ourselves once a week. I've always had trouble sleeping and avoid taking pills for it, so she would prepare the bed for me with a heating pad already turned on and my pajamas laid out. She would run her fingers through my hair until I fell asleep and wake me up herself instead of using an alarm because she knew it put me in a better mood. None of this was asked for. She did it because she knew it made me happy. She was a good wife and wanted to please me. But things changed. This level of care stopped when I cut down my hours at work, and now she does very little. Currently, she's angry, so I'm on the couch, awake and regretful. I think she's stubborn. I don't believe she even wants all this. She just wants to prove that I would do it if she asked. She has a troubled history with men, which is why I tend to be forgiving when things go wrong. It's not something I'm comfortable talking about, but believe me when I say that what happened to her was not her fault. Update post. February 18th, 2024, 6 days later. I've never been in a situation like this before. I am a former addict myself, but I didn't have children then. My wife and I recently had a blowout argument where she admitted to using substances for several months. She has agreed to check into rehab, which we are currently setting up. How do I bring this up to our children without them being judgmental or hateful towards their mother, or worse, falling into the same mental space I'm in? I don't want to lie to them, which is what my wife wants, but I can't see an alternative that won't destroy them or the respect they have for their mother. I'm struggling and have barely slept since this all came out. Any and all advice is appreciated. Thank you in advance. Contact with this friend, or else she will be facing divorce along with everything else. How old are the kids? 8, 11, and 13. I've never been in a situation like this before. I am a former addict myself, but I didn't have children then. My wife and I recently had a blowout argument where she admitted to using substances for several months. She has agreed to check into rehab, which we are currently setting up. How do I bring this up to our children without them being judgmental or hateful towards their mother? Or worse, falling into the same mental space I'm in? I don't want to lie to them, which is what my wife wants, but I can't see an alternative that won't destroy them or the respect they have for their mother. I'm struggling and have barely slept since this all came out. Any and all advice is appreciated. Thank you in advance. Relevant comments. What was she taking? Clonazepam and Xanax that she was buying from her friend. She also admitted to having tried cocaine and several other prescription narcotics, but those were the only two she used regularly. Was this the friend that turned her on to radical misandry? Yes, though it's come to light that it wasn't misandry she was being taught, but flagrant drug usage. I have told her that she goes no. Update post. March 1st, 2024, 10 days from OG post. I was driving my wife to the rehabilitation center we decided on. On the way, she was screaming at me about how she can't believe I'm humiliating her like this, explaining what was happening to the boys, and making her message her dealer friend that they would not be hanging out or using together anymore. She kept saying how she doesn't want to go, and that I am a controlling monster. She claimed that threatening her with divorce and taking primary custody of the boys was too far, and that I was insane. I just took it until I couldn't anymore. I screamed at her that the woman I met would have rather died than had a pillhead junkie around her sons. I told her how she disgusted me, and that I don't know if she knew how much I was considering leaving her VDA, not because of the addiction, but because of the way she was acting like she hadn't brought drugs into our home, around me, a former addict, and around our boys. I told her I was beginning to hate her for doing that she was becoming exactly what she always cried about her mother being, and that she was lucky I was here to see it before what happened to her goddamn sons. It makes me sick to say, but watching it sink in just how far she had spiraled felt good. Watching her realize that her actions have consequences was satisfying. She yelled a few more times that I was an abusive bastard or whatever, but she was still crying, so I felt her heart wasn't in it. I plan on speaking to a lawyer. I don't want to divorce her, but I don't know how healthy our relationship could possibly be after this. I know yelling like that was wrong, but I don't feel bad. And that is the part that makes me think that maybe I shouldn't be married to her anymore of DJ for her sake and my own. I don't know what else to do, and I'm so pissed that she detonated C4 in every bit of our life. Relevant comments. I believe I'm going to have to divorce her and it's wrecking me. I don't want to. I still love her, but I don't know if I trust myself around her and also not to use myself. I've been closer to relapsing this week than I ever have been. Update post. March 14th, 2024. 12 days from last post, 3 weeks from first post. Before you read, please know this is event post. I normally would never be like this, but I am beyond okay and need to get this poison out of my head before I go anywhere else with it. She was cheating. The drug-dealing friend sent me videos of her dancing and grinding on this ugly, hick-looking bastard. I am goddamn destroyed. The boys are staying with my mother for a few days, and I'm taking the next week off work. I am so done. I have never been so angry in my goddamn life. She was so goddamn smug sending it saying, in case you don't realize you're replaceable to her. Well, the free ride stops here. I hope she can get on Medicaid for her Suboxone, LMFAO. I'm done. I saved the video immediately, and I'm going to see a lawyer ASAP. I can't tell anyone yet because I want to do this right. Thankfully, my parents insisted on a prenup with what I at the time thought was an inhumane cheating clause. I've never been cheated on before, and I feel like tearing my goddamn hair out. I genuinely never thought she would turn out to be such. And Dad in rehab right now. I am so close to losing my goddamn mind. Also, believe what you want, but stop sending me private messages about how I should take down the posts or that posting about my personal relationship with my wife is wrong. Please leave me be. This is the only place I can talk about this. Editor's note. The author clarifies the kid's situation. 2 of my 3 sons are stepsons, but I adopted them. They never had a father due to their biological dad being an absolute piece of shit. My biological son is the youngest, and was born to a girlfriend who is not in the picture and doesn't want to be. My sons are 8, 11, and 13. She had 2 jobs when I met her, though they were both shitty jobs, and I'd been looking into finding her a better one. When it comes to the dealer, she was getting the drugs from her friend who was a woman and a few of the men she cheated with. Update Post 4. August 5th, 2024. You can read my other posts for more context on what happened to get here if you like, but the short of it is I was blind to my wife's addiction until she admitted it and went to rehab. While she was in rehab, I was sent evidence that she had been cheating often and with more than one person. I have been working on filing for divorce while she's in rehab, not just for the cheating, but because with that on top of everything else and myself nearly sinking back into my own addiction due to the stress of the situation, I couldn't stand to even think of her anymore, and there's no healthy relationship that has room for that mindset. I honestly didn't want to be in a room with her again to try mediation or counseling due to the fact that the last time I was alone with her I raised my voice, and at the time even felt she deserved it. I, of course, now know that me doing it was terrible and could be considered abuse. Yet another reason I should not be in a relationship with this woman. I moved all of her belongings to our guest room minus the pills I found hidden in her bedside table. I took pictures of those in their hiding spot, then flushed them. I also removed her from my bank account and credit cards. I spoke to my boys explaining the situation without demonizing their mother to the best of my ability, and they seemed to understand. I have no intention of abandoning them, and blood or not, they were my sons. Then she came home. The boys were and still are away at camp, a birthday present paid for by my mother. She was quiet, eyes on the ground, from the moment I picked her up at the facility all the way home. Once we got home, I led her to the guest room silently, and she didn't take it well, crying before she could even take the first step. Throughout the next couple of weeks, I let her get settled, and though I stayed carefully neutral, I know she could tell something was coming. But I wanted to be as fair as possible and try to let her get used to being out before I said anything, as that was one thing I myself hated about when I left rehab. Everything was flying at me so fast I didn't have time to breathe. Finally, I asked her to sit on the couch, and I began explaining to her that I do not believe I can continue being married to her and that I want a divorce. I should have known her reaction was all wrong. She didn't say anything at all. She only nodded and cried quietly as I spoke. I explained that I did not intend to hurt her, but I could not be married to her anymore, and that maybe both of us should focus on being the best parents we can be. I told her I had no intentions of kicking her out and that because of our prenup, the divorce should be cut and dry and she should be safe to begin looking for employment now, and once she has a job I will help her find an apartment. At this, she stood and walked to her room. I let her because I thought she must have been overwhelmed, and this talk could wait. She didn't come out at dinner time, and I weighed whether I should leave her alone or not. Eventually, I decided to knock on the door and ask if she was hungry. Long story short, she had smuggled pills into my house somehow, or she had a stash I was unaware of, and had an overdose. She was dead for several minutes in the ambulance, and now she's in a medically induced coma because the doctors aren't sure exactly how much damage she's done to her brain. From what they've said, I feel like an absolute monster, like I am the scum of the earth. I feel like I should have just said nothing, just dealt with it, held it in, and stayed. I'm responsible for this, and it kills me. I may not have the same love for her as I did, but I do feel so very sorry for everything she's been through. It's killing me. I haven't told my sons yet, and I'm debating waiting until they're back from camp so they can have a little more time without this on their minds on top of everything else. I am sorry for the grammar and such. I don't have the energy to edit this but wanted to get this off my chest. Relevant comments. Where's her family? Not my story to tell, but she doesn't have much family alive, and the ones who are, she's no contact with. She has other friends, but I don't know which ones were enabling her. They all know what's going on. I messaged all her friends except the dealer, but she knows now. I know from messages she sent me. She hasn't shown up to the hospital, though, possibly because she thinks I would throw her out, which I would be tempted to do, to be entirely honest. A couple of her other friends visit all the time. Yes, she's no contact with her mother. Ironically, because of her mother's addiction and bad treatment of her. The rest constantly insisted she should see her mother, and even took her boys to her mother's house without her permission. One more clarification on the kids. Yes, because all of our children are from previous relationships. I have adopted the two eldest who aren't mine biologically. Why he did it at that point? I wanted to do it while she's in rehab, but my therapist told me to reconsider, so I did. I was so angry when I found out about the cheating. I wanted to take her belongings to her dealer's house and leave them there. But I knew that was wrong. I knew that once my anger wore off, I would regret it. So now I just want to get the divorce started and over with as soon as possible, so that I can begin trying to pick up the pieces and move on with my life. On top of that, I didn't want to lead her on. And I could tell that she knew something was coming because I can't even stand her touching me anymore. It makes me physically ill. If I had known she was going to kill herself, I could have closed my eyes and grit my teeth and let her do whatever, but honestly, even now, after what she did, I know that isn't feasible for me. I still found myself wanting to start fights, to yell, and I know that I am not a strong enough person to be in a relationship with someone who hurt me that much, who disrespected me, my home, and my children that much, who took my own past experiences with drugs into account so little that she brought them into my home directly under the nose of myself and my children, pun intended. This is as much kindness as I can afford to extend to her anymore for my own mental health's sake. Oops comments on August 3rd, 5 days later. Not awake yet. I took the advice of some of the commenters and went to go get my boys to see if they wanted to see their mother. I explained the situation to the best of my ability, age appropriate, and asked if they wanted to see her. They all agreed to see her eventually, but the eldest only wanted to go to support his brothers. I'm concerned about the anger he is building towards his mother, and I do intend to talk to him about it, but I also don't want to tell him how to feel or tell him that his feelings are bad and wrong. I was already working to get them into therapy, but I'm going to expedite that. There have been multiple pictures and videos of her dancing on and being inappropriate with men since that post. I haven't blocked the friend because she sent me a large amount of proof of infidelity for the divorce. In that post, the hick she was dancing on was a man. Perhaps you're confused because her woman friend sent the video. Perhaps my wording was bad, I apologize. And yes, I do know that trauma is the gateway to addiction, as I am an addict. I experienced CSA from my uncle and general abuse from both my parents. We went to counseling during my rehab, and our relationship is much better now. But growing up was very bad. I can't say I know what made her start using, but I can say I know she had a rough childhood and even worse teen years. Editing to add, regardless of sexual identity, if I found out my wife was engaging in sexual acts with women, I would also consider it cheating. She was doing other sexually inappropriate things, but no, I didn't get any straight-up sex tapes. I would rather not go into it further, but I think you can get my drift. Final update post, February 13th, 2024. My wife is dead. I haven't updated in a while, and I'm sorry, but I'm sure you can guess why I wasn't feeling up to it. I know that everyone said that she was manipulating me or trying to make me stay with her. But honestly, even if that was the case, it didn't matter because the moment she woke up, we both started crying and talking, and we didn't stop for days. She went back into rehab for a little while, came out, and we did both couples and solo therapy for both of us. She seemed happy. She seemed better, and I had hoped that the crazy was over and that we would just be happy again. I didn't update then because, frankly, I was scared of how everyone would react. I don't do well with getting yelled at. She promised me that if anything happened, if there was anything she needed to talk to me about, she wouldn't hesitate. Everything was going well. And now when I ask myself if there were signs she would go back or that she never stopped, the answer is no. Nothing except the fact that she had an overdose at her friend's house while I was working and died on her couch. The friend didn't even want to call an ambulance. Her boyfriend had to convince her to. I don't think either of them were arrested that day, but I know from the paper she was picked up a couple of months ago for selling. Everyone kept telling me to go to the police, and frankly, maybe I should have. But with the way the police act, it wouldn't do much good. Since then, I've been drifting terribly. I took up smoking again, something I quit before I got married because she hated the smell. I hate it now, too. The smell, I mean, but the hand-to-mouth action is nice. My sons are in therapy and are taking the loss as well as could be expected. The younger two talk about her a lot, but the eldest is mostly angry. I'm thankful he doesn't seem to want to say things to his brothers about it, but I always let him tell me anything he's thinking, even when it breaks my heart. I know that maybe everyone here has an idea of who my wife was, but one thing that you could never deny was how much she loved our boys. They were her pride and joy, absolutely everything to her. I miss her. I miss her so much it feels like a death rattle to breathe. There's never music when I get home anymore, and I hate it. I hate the quiet so much that some days before I go inside, I sit in the car and just cry because I know she won't be there. I haven't even been able to clean out her side of the bathroom yet. It hurts too much to think about getting rid of her perfume or her toothbrush. I haven't felt like writing for obvious reasons, but there's something that feels important now, so I will. Valentine's Day is tomorrow. On the way home from work recently, I caught myself calculating flower prices before I remembered that I have no one to give them to unless I put them on her grave. I remember being pissed off at how expensive roses were getting, and now that seems so silly. I just wanted to say, if you have someone you love, please cherish them. Do something extra nice for the person you love tomorrow for my sake. Nothing crazy, but maybe you can dance around the living room to your song or read to each other VJ something soft or good to let them know you're real and really, really there. I know that's so cliché and corny, and if Alex were here now, she would actively bully me, but sadly the old bastards were always right. Life is short. Isn't that a kick in the ass? Relevant comments. Smoking. I know I should quit smoking. I don't do it in the house because the smell really does make me sick after a while. I only really do it at night or in the early mornings. I'm considering getting one of those flavored air ones that are going around with no smoke or whatever, so I can keep the hand-to-mouth thing, which I like a lot, and mist. Not the best compromise, but it's something. Try widow support on Reddit. I might honestly thank you. Any kind of emotional support right now is going to be welcome. It's hard for me to be emotional around my boys because I hate to make them feel like they're ever in a position where they need to take care of me. Poor kids have been through enough without me losing it, but that could be my own baggage. Do what you need to for yourself, my dude. But that just stood out to me. Thank you, genuinely. I will keep that in mind. I hadn't fully considered that, if I'm being honest, but I can work on it. One last thought from me. Not defending her is so hard for me, but that was the first thing my therapist told me when I asked about my son's VJ, that defending her to them wasn't going to help, and that all I could do was let them talk. My eldest is the only one who really rages about it, but the younger two will eventually, I'm sure. I am also angry in this helpless kind of way that hurts so bad I can't stand to think about it, because if she had just talked to me, I could have helped her, and she would still be here. I'm a former addict myself, and I know I made so many mistakes with my wife, but I swear it was like everything was so good again. We slept in the same bed again and had dates. Everything in my mind just wants to scream and beg to know why she would do this, and I can't. I hate it so much because I tried so very hard not to love her anymore when she was alive, and it didn't work. I don't see myself doing any better now that she's gone, and it hurts even worse because when other people are mad or say negative things, I still want to defend her, to explain every little reason she had and why it wasn't all her fault. But in the end, it doesn't even matter if I do, because she is gone. She won't be here to reap the benefits of that defense, or even to care that I changed minds. She won't be here to be respected or disrespected. It feels pointless, but I still want to, and it makes me feel like a terrible person.